Can you all hear me okay? So with me today I have Roy who will follow my presentation, our operations director. I have our marketing manager at the back and photographer and provider of pandas, Naomi Hui. And I also have our senior business development manager, Jay Talamo. Okay, so I'm going to take you through an element of China's cybersecurity law and your procurement options to address the law. China's cybersecurity law is a law that's often we are asked about and asked to give a view on. So although this isn't our official view, this is to give you insight of our understanding of the Chinese cybersecurity law and what it is and how to basically address the regulations that exist in China's cybersecurity law. But before I do that, I wanted to take you through a short journey, a history of telecommunications in China. I promise it won't be too dull. The role of the Ministry of Industry and Information and Technology. As I say, talk about China's cybersecurity law and then your procurement options to meet the challenge of China's cybersecurity law. So, before 1994, the Ministry of Post and Telecommunications in China provided telecom services through its operational arm, China Telecom. So, liken China Telecom to BT in the UK. We were the original incumbent. In 1994, a rival was established, much like in the 80s Mercury to BT, China Netcom. And in 2002, China Telecom was geographically split into the north and south of China. So think of Shanghai as being the border of the south and Beijing being the north. So 70% of the network resources are managed by China Telecom in mainland China, and 30% of the network resources in China are managed by China Unicom, or China Netcom, should I say, because in 2008, China Netcom merged with China Unicom to form China Unicom. So that brings us up to speed with telecommunications in China and the big players, China Telecom and China Unicom. Then the regulatory environment. So in 2008, the MIIT was established, which is the Ministry for Industry, Information and Telecommunications. And they were established essentially to govern and regulate the telecommunications and ICT environment in China. So they're responsible for licensing, research and development, tariffs. They're the governing body. Liken them to Ofcom in the UK. Okay? And the MIIT has built up a nationwide regulatory system. There are over 34 provinces in China, or 34 to be exact. And all of those provinces had their own telecommunications company, which is either a subsidiary of China Telecom or a subsidiary of China Unicom. And in those territories, in those provinces, the regulator acts on behalf of MIIT and makes sure that all of the operators are compliant. In 2014, the Cyberspace Administration of China was also established, and that's responsible for setting policy around the use of social media, social activities on the internet. And this is where we come to cybersecurity law, or China's cybersecurity law, should I say. So why has this element of the law been introduced? Well, this is all around the protection of Chinese citizens' online profiles, okay? So if you have an office, if you have a manufacturing plant, and you're a European company, this will be particularly interesting to you to understand what impact that could potentially have on you, this law. So all companies that collect and process personal data in China must comply with this law. And the compliance was by December the 31st, 2018. And this was an extended deadline, which was originally set in June the 1st, 2017. And what you were required to do is host all the personal data that you've got for Chinese citizens in Chinese territories. When hosting that data, you must have the user's consent. and you must apply that law retrospectively. So data that you've got that dates back to years ago, people maybe left the company, they're Chinese employees. You must apply this law retrospectively. So what is personal data? Well, personal data is details of their ID number, their full name, their IP address, their email address, anything that identifies them, phone numbers, cookies, etc. And what are the rules? Well, the rules are data transfer from China to overseas locations must comply with this law. So personal data, to emphasise, should be stored in China, and the user's personal data should be collected, having had their consent to collect.
So can I just ask, when you're using the term user, presumably you're talking about any entity that you may come into contact with, i.e. customer and the like. Just can I clarify that you're referring to that as well? Or?
Yeah, the data of Chinese citizens, whether they're customers, employees, etc., etc. The transfer of personal data abroad must be for legitimate reasons. So you can get permission to transfer personal users' data abroad, but you have to justify that to the Cyber Security Association and justify it in as much as it's necessary and it's needed for business purposes. So many multinationals, as a consequence of this law, it is argued, have moved their headquarters in Asia from Singapore and Hong Kong to China. Among those are Apple and Airbnb. But we are aware that many European companies still retain personal information on Chinese citizens outside of China on their servers. So, what happens if you don't comply? Well, companies may face fines, confiscation of gains and profits, suspension of their website, withdrawal of their business license to trade in China. One bullet point there that isn't mentioned is possible imprisonment. It's that serious. So some companies have already been warned and sanctioned, and you just really need to be aware of this law, because the potential, the situation, if you're actually found to not comply, this is potentially what could happen to your organisation. So what are our recommendations as a result? So firstly, as I've said, advice is to conduct a thorough security assessment and seek approval for cross-border transfer of personal data. As part of that assessment, review all your data collection systems and make sure that your user is aware of the scope of the data that you have for them. Ensure you have user consent to collect data. Collected data should be recorded, it should be time-stamped, with evidence of the user's permission to store that data. Update your privacy policies to reflect this cybersecurity law, and don't forget your IoT devices that may be collecting personal data. Recommendations are that you make this assessment every year and host all your data collection systems in China. So, if you need to move your data to China and you need access to the Chinese market, I'm from China Telecom, and obviously I'm going to just briefly explore some of the options. Firstly, you can delegate that responsibility to your team in China to procure solutions in China themselves. Or you could use your existing global provider. Many large multinational corporations have a global network provider that they use, who in turn could subcontract your requirements for connectivity into China to them. Or you could use a Chinese operator such as China Telecom in Europe. These are typically the features, I won't go through them one by one, but these are typically the features that we find multinational corporations look for in a service when they're looking to procure network solutions to China. And as you can see, there are, of course I'm going to say this, you're probably saying to yourselves, many advantages of using a Chinese telecommunications company that understands the regulatory environment in China, but is based in Europe. Not the least of which is you can contract for those services under European law, you can have an SLA, you can deal locally with an account team, you can have both an English-speaking and Mandarin help desk, which is very, very useful for your Chinese employees and your UK and European employees. And most of all, we're an organisation that really understands the regulatory system and understands the laws that exist in China. After all, we are government-owned. 70% of our organisation is owned by the government. The organisation that sets the rules, so to speak, is also government-owned. So we have very close ties to the MIIT and Cyberspace Administration.
So can we trust you guys with our data?
Yes, you can. We have over 200 customers in the UK, in Europe, around Europe, and if there's any doubt about our trust, I can give you references that will confirm that you can trust us with your data. Okay. The bottom line is that all companies that are active in China are trusting China Telecom if they're in the 70% of those territories that we provide fibre infrastructure to and copper infrastructure into the buildings, then you're trusting us with your data. So you're already doing it. Okay, so in summary, it is a unique environment. I think we all know that in the audience, that if you've ever done business in China, it's a very unique environment in which to do business. And that's very much the same in the telecommunications and IT environment. Be very wary of this law, okay? It's fair to say it's very difficult for the Chinese authorities to detect which organisations aren't complying with this law. But if they do find out, then these are the potential consequences that I've spoken about. And then finally, as I say, and I'm going to say this, using a specialist supplier has its advantages. Thank you. I'm now going to pass over to my colleague, Roy.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Neil have given us a very practical and proven solutions. This address many uncertainty or even misunderstanding for many European customers, how to handle this one, because they heard from others, okay, maybe a not reliable source. But this one is, the Neil have present is practical and already proven, okay, to many European and even customers from US and other countries. So right now, the second part of this, I will give you more ideas about what's happening in China, about the digital transformations. There's a lot of strategy, okay, in Europe and other countries, but how we do it in locally, okay, in China, and what is the best practice? Okay, we will go through it. So first of all, some numbers. Okay, of course, in China we talk about many other numbers. Population in China, okay, 1.39 billion of population. So you will say, how is this related to me? Okay, or to my company? I give you an insight. This is a proverb that we always say. So no matter how big the number you have in China, wherever, no matter how big the number is, if divided by the population of China, it's just a small number. Okay, it's just a small number. It means that if you go into China, you never have enough resources, no matter in the money, technical, human resources, other. You cannot cover the whole market, and you don't have to. Okay, because it's just a small number. If you divide it to all over China, you must have focus, strategy, and your edge to focus on certain groups of people. The second one after this one is, no matter how small the problem is, if multiplied by the population of China, it is a big problem. So what is the insight to your IT? It means that if you, okay, well, we heard about many speakers, they talk about they roll out small, they can try have quick win and get the infrastructure up. But when you scale up into China, okay, when you expand, a small problem, okay, happening to your platform, to your application, it will make a big problem across China. Okay, you don't want that to happen. Okay, if you multiply this scale. Okay, so that's why this is a very, very important. Okay, to give you. So we need to handle a lot of population number and the issues. Give you some idea. Number of travelers. during Chinese New Year. It's just 2 weeks, okay? Chinese New Year, 2 weeks. Every people travel going back to home because they usually travel to a big city, but their home are in the countryside. 413 million of passengers by train, okay? Not to mention other by cars or by plane, only by train, travel in 2 weeks. So how can we handle this kind of amount of, not to say that we have a train station or a very fast high-speed train, but it's about the ticket you buy, okay? Everyone is daring, okay, is hunting for the ticket. In China, every ticket needs to be real name registered. That means you cannot resell it. You need to register with your ID. But after you go to the train station, you need to check it one by one with the ID. It takes a lot of time. So we need to deploy something much smarter. Okay? That is the facial recognitions. Because all things is linked with your ID. When you buy it, you input it, you need ID into the system. So when you just go through it. So this one have to be helping us to deal with the numbers, okay, the population and the high demand. These are some of the big data, okay? The big data we're happening in China. Traffic, the big data analysis, we need to analyze. This is a Nanjing city. If you go to it, in the middle of China. We need to understand where the traffic is. This is the taxi. It's about taxi. How the taxi go through? Are they in the high speed? Where are they going? In the whole scale of view, and to analyze it. And you have even more have a traffic path analysis. Okay, where and where the traffic goes from this home site, and to manage, because too many people will cause problems. Okay, if you have the same traffic congestion, even some accident happen, that would be difficult to rescue. So this all helping us to manage the traffic and the population all together. Some of the AI application already deployed. Maybe you heard about that. It's not that difficult. You recognize the car number plate, but it's more than that. Right now we recognize the car plate, the color, the type of car, the model of the car, even the direction of the car. It's just all done by real time. Okay, I just show you a fixed one. I mean, I don't have the video to show you on that. It is doing dynamically to show it. And even more, are they have the seatbelt fastened? Okay, are there a man or woman driving on it, or are they how to compile it? Are any accident happen? What is the direction the pedestrian is going through? In what kind of speed? So this kind will help us into doing a lot of management, city management, or maybe finding some illegal parking, or even a criminal going through different paths. We can trace it. Okay, from this one. This is the video recognition. We have a lot of cars. Then IoT is already deployed in China a lot. Okay, with smart parking. I think everyone have every sensor in some car park. Car park is already installed it so that you can see it, how many space available before you go to that car park. Okay, so they tell you real time in your apps, and you can pay it online with your apps. This is much more advanced than just paying it. Okay, you get your real time. You don't waste your money. Okay, if you go to the car park. IoT on some water meter. Okay, it's an ecosystem. Okay, how many water you have? In Shenzhen city, by 2020, they will install more than 500,000 of smart meters. They have to give you a whole overview whether your current water building is a whole massive scale. So rolling out in China, deploying on some IoT. So let's come back to something. Okay, internet user figures. How many internet users in China? Right now, okay, 829 million. It's very close to our population, but its penetration rate only near to 60%. You still have 40% of people is not going on the internet, okay? But even though we have a lot of penetration in the mobile users, but it's still going up, okay, it's still strong line. But something you do not recognize that the international bandwidth, from international internet bandwidth from China, not many people are aware of that. We only have 8.9 terabytes per bit per second. So even though, okay, from 2011, from 1.3 T, we compounded growth, and it's double 6 times to last year, 8.9 T. But it's just a small number, remember, okay, divided by number of population in China. It is just about 10K bit per second per user. You can say that, okay, only 1/10 of the user go on the internet at the same time, it's only 100K. It's very small. So many international bandwidth is still not enough in China. So given all of that, you have some ideas, okay, what's happening, we have a lot of problems, a lot of scales during China. So we want to make sense, okay, from this fast changing world, okay. I have given you an idea, okay. This philosophy has been developed for more than 70 or 80 years. Maslow hierarchy of needs, okay, I think everyone learned about it. It's talking about your physiological needs, security needs, and then you have love and belonging, esteem, and then finally the top one should be self-actualizations, okay, your dream, okay, you to fulfill your dream. IT, we also have this one, okay. You need to have the basic one, the infrastructure. I think you say, oh, infrastructure, everyone should have it, but not everyone had to do it solidly, okay, and very good. Okay. Not to mention the second layer is the reliability, speed, and flexibility and scalability. And finally is the IT actualization, we call it. The IT actualization is what we have talking about today in many sense. Okay. So how to fit it? I think many of you, infrastructure is physical one, virtual one, the network, the link that we need to get it connected with, no matter it's a fixed network or mobile network, you need to get it connected. Then you need to consider about your backup resources, your DR side, your ID security, okay? We mentioned a lot of security issues, the backup issue, to get it reliable, make it work. And then the hunt for speed and scalability and flexibility. There are a lot with that other speakers talk about the cloud, okay? The cloud adoption gives us the flexibility, but not only one cloud, okay? Not only one method, okay? You should use. Then we are talking about many cloud, okay? Multi-cloud. I will talk about that later on. And the cloud connectivity inside and outside China with different kinds of flexible technology. We call it as software-defined networks. And finally, we should come to the final stage, IT actualization, which is our main topic, digital transformation. The IoT, the big data, the machine learning, AR, VR, etc. If you don't have the infrastructure or the ground to build up reliably, you cannot go up. Okay, this is the experience of many of our IT directors told us. If you want to, my boss wants to implement the big data or in China, but AI in China, but how about your infrastructure? How is your adaptability of that? I will go through some use case in the later on slide. So the first idea is that you need to deploy multi-cloud. Okay, there's many of you have heard about that. You cannot just rely on that. Oh, sorry, I don't know. Some of the slides overwrite. Okay, in my slides, my dear scientist, I have more respect for scientist Stephen Hawking. He's born in Oxford, died in Cambridge. Okay, so we need to talk about that. The human race shouldn't put all his eggs in one basket or on one planet. Let's hope we can not dropping the basket and we have to spread the load, okay? You didn't see that, okay? Spread the load. It's the reason we need to use multi-cloud, okay? Not just one cloud, okay? In that, to recognize that, everyone know that Amazon have the largest market share in the public cloud, okay? In terms of revenue, yes, okay? In terms of revenue, it just released last month from the Synergy Research, a US research company. Amazon is the largest one. But come on, the second one will be the Ali Cloud right now, 15, and then come to Microsoft. But in China, it's totally different. Ali Cloud is quite dominant. Okay, they account for 40%. And Tencent Cloud and the CNET. CNET is a partnership with AWS in China. They adopt locally and form a company and take about 9.7%. The idea is that if you are using Amazon or Azure, you may need to have some localization, okay, in China. Not all the features are not available. Not all the features are available in China. Partly, they have AWS. Definitely, they have AWS in China, but not the full features you have used or developed. So, given that, you should adopt multi-cloud strategy and try what is the best thing on which application on which cloud to do it. So we always advise our customer to adopt multi in 3 dimensions. First of all, as we mentioned, the multi-cloud, no matter it's public, private, or hybrid, you need to make good use of this. The other one is the connectivity. I will talk about that. It's a software-defined or other cloud network integrated approach. The second one, it should not be in one region. It should be across region, not only Europe, not only in China, not in Asia. It should be across region, multiple connected solutions. So I mentioned I will give you some use case. These are one of the customer experience. They're going through the digital transformations. And this is the real year, okay, they start, okay? 2015, they start the digital transformation, okay? 2015, first of all, what should they do? DC, data center standardization and consolidations. First of all, build your foundations. Build your foundation first. They go through some proof of concept. They try some infrastructure as a service. The public cloud is emerging at that time. They try some virtualization. Many people are talking about that. They need quick win, small win, okay? Not the big win, because you need to try quickly whether it works or not, or prove on that. And next year, they have the initiation. They have finalized the cloud strategy, some application put on that and try it, and experiment on different cloud, different IaaS, infrastructure as a service. Not only one cloud platform, and build the budget and get the budget and to put it on. The foundation in 2017 is founded. They confirm the cloud environment. They do the application migrated to the cloud, okay? And then they adopt a cloud-first approach. Whenever they have a new application, they will try it on a cloud platform first instead of the traditional platform. So it takes 3 years, nearly 2 to 3 years, for them to transform into a cloud company. And then in last year, they are fully implemented a major migration, new project, or even, as I mentioned, the security part is important. So the compliance part, they need to build it on. The foundation needs to be very solid, okay? Not only the infrastructure, but also the security and compliance part. And they think that in the next 2 years, 2020, they will do it a full cloud business on the business innovation to create some business or that they had never think of, which is maybe cloud native or service. They rely on that, okay? In order to, of course, finally, they want to save some cost. That is the cloud digital migration area. And, okay, yeah, it's enough. The second part is that the experience, they're moving to China. The user experience, they're moving to China. How to do from a global company operation to in China. This is also a real one. In 2012, it's not that far, okay? They go to China not 10 years, not more than 10 years. But the first thing they do is the standardizations. They can't build up starting from ground. They export their best practice, even the technology and process to China. But be careful, okay? You can build up with your standardization, but you need to adapt it. But first of all, you need to have some group standard and build up some of the local IT team to operate. Then they reintegrate with their company, okay, to adopt the IT group application from their group, reinforce the infrastructure, as I mentioned. They need infrastructure and integration with some local applications. Their synergy come to 2016, okay, after 4 years, they have a smooth running between their global and local process, because they have decided some need to live it in their global headquarters, some need to do it in China. They have done it correctly. And the real-time collaboration is communication. Communication is very important. And then they have the cloud adoption. Then finally, this is not what I mentioned, okay? This is really their strategy they share to us. They want to leverage the Chinese leadership on digital transformation because it's changing so fast, okay? There's some local knowledge and local business model can be formed. This is what our customer have adopted. You can see that, okay? The insight I want to share is our rule of thumb, okay? For you to plan over IT direct plan, we sometimes consistently overestimate what we can achieve in 1 year and underestimate what we can achieve in 5 to 10 years. The 2 use case I experience is that they don't achieve in 1 year. They build the foundation step by step. They build it very solidly and global experience, global standard, localize and put it on and try it on with the digital transformation. That's what they do, okay? Not just a big target in 1 year. So the final one I want to share is software divided. It's something is not, okay, it's quite far to enterprise, but I would say that it is right now already deployed In a carrier grade, we already deployed it in our data center, because in the internet access, if you heard of Double 11, this is the largest e-commerce in China, that everyone go to the website Taobao Tmall on the same day and generate 24 billion pounds in one day of sales. So the internet traffic is too much. So we already defined in China, in Guangzhou province, we have multiple internet access. So we do it in the software-defined network to control different carrier, Alcatel-Lucent, Huawei, and Cisco router, and then redirect all the internet traffic dynamically. Because if you heard about that, usually the internet traffic is controlled by BGP. It's not flexible. It's not dynamical. Okay? So we use a software-defined backbone to redirect all the internet traffic, to cater for such a burst in the internet. And for the enterprise, you will say that what can I use in the software-defined for our enterprise? Actually, it's the SD-WAN, the software-defined WAN. This has helped you not only to communicate in China, in overseas, you can also access the different cloud outside China. This is already done and proven for many enterprise. It is overlay technology. No matter what technology you have, MPLS or internet, you just overlay the SD-WAN technology on top of it. It's just easy deploy, much faster. One of the customer from us is they spend 9 days from ordering to deploy a communication from China to Europe with the all network set up on top of the existing infrastructure and solve their problem, and compliance. So I think finally I will conclude that there's a lot of things going through in China. You need to understand the digital culture in China. Mobility and apps is using a lot. Comparing to global standard and local adaptability, you need to get a balance of it, not just in one side, not only globally or just locally. Okay? The infrastructure readiness, I have emphasized a lot in the Maslow hierarchy need. You need the foundation, get ready first, and select the right target and get the right person with the right language, and finally, of course, the compliance for the network. So I hope this will give you a very quick overview on what's happening in China.
Good. Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.